questions or comments about what we're doing so far, ideas? Anyone? God particle. You found the God particle out there. The Higgs boson, right? Is that what it is? All right. Now, I see some of you may have gone to like a philosophical website or something, but I'm interested also in things just from the news, because I want us to remember that the things we try to discuss in this class manifest themselves in very peculiar ways in people's lives, because one foundational presupposition we're working on, as if there were any non-foundational presuppositions, but is that we are essentially philosophical beings. Okay, we have self-reflection, and we love to be curious, and we wonder about things, and we are very concerned about the meaning of it all. And for a good lot of people, there is an initial concern for that until they get overwhelmed with the idea that there is no meaning for it all, and then they give up and they turn to other activities. But initially, I think that concern would have been there. So, though there's no way to prove that. But so we're moving along with think. All right. Anything you want to interject? Well, feel free to do so. Just raise your hand and take the floor if an idea comes to you. I wanted to point out something. I asked you to skip some pages and think, and that's just what I do to get through books. Sometimes I'll give myself one day to get through a book, and I'll walk away with 15%. And that's better than nothing, because if I say I'm going to read this book and I start trying to read it from cover to cover, I'll quit after a month and I'll never read it. So some books, sometimes this is a reading strategy. However, we skipped something kind of important. So I'm going to go and talk to you about this idea of web, because you brought it up when you said the question, well, what does it matter if it's really there, if it makes sense within the system? Can't we operate that way? Okay, so there are two notions of truth out there, okay? There's the correspondence theory of truth. The correspondence theory of truth says truth is a proposition, okay? You can say it. The temperature in here is normal. Or that door has a window in it. See the proposition? Door, window, has, verb, all that sort of stuff, okay? And you take the meaning of the proposition and you see if it correlates to the state of affairs you can access through other means.
What is that called?
The correspondence theory of truth. But the notion behind that, and this is the notion which drives the stance called realism, okay, is that door is actually really real, and you're accessing it as a real object. And this if you have to have that in place first before Descartes' evil demon comes around and haunts you forever after, because the question is, can it not all be a very sophisticated web matrix of sensory data hovering around your mind, making you think there's a door? I mean, remember, this demon has very powerful capabilities. He can implant memories. He can implant sensations, thoughts, and sensory sensations, thoughts, colors, so the feeling of solidity. You know, we like to think of solidity as something that resides in the object, but you realize you've never felt it. I mean, you've never actually interacted with solidity only through your fingers. Sensory. It's been sensory. Sometimes you get the ball to the head, right? I remember one time in college, I had this fellow playing softball, and they hit a pop fly. The guy was a cut up anyway. He didn't even want to be there. He ran to catch that pop fly. He slipped on a mud puddle, fell face down, looked up to see what was happening, and the ball caught him right in the head. I kid you not, right in the head. He got this big old bump. And another fellow the same year took part in some Greek games or something and was jumping around on this big ball and fell off the ball and knocked out his two front teeth. Just clean. He found them, and they went to the dentist and they put him back in. But knocked out the two front teeth. You know what? All of that is sensory data. It could be sensory data. You know, so the evil demon's pretty good. He's pretty good. The idea of the cohesion theory of truth. It's called the cohesion theory of truth. Is that, you know what? It's fruitless to try to think in terms of past the sensory data, of past your consciousness, because it really is what we're dealing with here is your consciousness. Everything you know in your consciousness, don't you? Cannot that be fiddled with by the evil demon? So what's beyond this? What would actually exist if you were to just disappear? Now, I asked you this basic question when I said, consider what is the color of the universe. Okay. And let's throw a little bit of a nuance in there. If every living organism that has rods and cones in the eyes and can see color or shades or whatnot were to all of a sudden be just annihilated, what color would the universe be? And you'd have to entertain the possibility that everything is utterly black. Utterly black. That there is no concept of color at that point. Now you could always revert back to, hey, well, what about God? I know, but you realize that just as you cannot, well, we'll discuss the notion of God in depth further on, and you'll see that that is also a presupposition for which the proof is very elusive. Okay, and I don't want to say, well, God preserves the colors yet, because I don't want us to take the discussion in that route. But you see already how philosophers will resort to God as, hey, well, we know God exists, and we know He's not a deceiver. Ergo, there is no evil demon. Okay, Descartes, very nice. Why are you saying that? And his trademark argument is, right, well, I have an idea of a perfect being. Everything that exists must have a cause, which obviously can't apply to God, right, to Descartes' God. Because who caused him? Okay, the cause imparts something to the effect, therefore, but partially so. Therefore, God must have even more perfection, and how can you consider anything perfect which lacks the quality of existence? God has no lack, so He can't lack the quality of existence. That's how it goes. Does anyone know another? Have you heard of Saint Anselm's argument? Yeah, that's basically it right there. He's just repeating Descartes more or less, and we'll read that soon, Saint Anselm's. But anyway, the cohesion theory of truth says, as long as things within your collection of propositions, okay, within your collection of propositions, as long as there's no contradiction, we're going to call that truth. So, help me out here. Did you run across Bertrand Russell today in your reading? Bertrand Russell and the idea of the old earth? That's something we skipped. Okay, all right. Well, let's discuss this. Okay. Bertrand Russell, a famous philosopher, and just a crazy character of modern times. He came up with this. Okay, maybe you've heard this before. How do you know that the world wasn't created yesterday? Upon two conditions. First, it was created old. So it was laden with age, with wrinkles, okay? And also, you were created yesterday too, but you were created with memories of a long past. Because when you look at it, how do you know that's not the case? And I don't want to really open this up to discussion right now, because as far as I can see in the history of philosophy, no one can really tell you why it's not the case. That is not a possibility. But not to preclude the possibility that there is an answer to the question, and one of you may have it. Feel free to interject an idea, but seriously, how would you be able to refute that idea? Everything you see was just made yesterday. It was made old, and and you also were made with old memories that make you think you've existed beyond yesterday, but they were just implanted in you. Yeah.
Back from this. So what you're saying is if everything that we know is true is actually a lie, kind of. If everything that we know is true is a lie, then can't we say that?
Okay, now I would say everything you believe is true.
Everything you believe is true is a lie. But then couldn't you say that it's truth within the lie?
Okay, see that is the notion of cohesion. That's the cohesive theory of truth. That's exactly what it is. And the idea is, well, look, okay, Russell just hit it as did Descartes with the evil demon. I don't think we can ever prove that this world was not created yesterday. Now, this is a secular mind saying this, which ought to put red flags all over your head concerning any scientist that makes a dogmatic proclamation that this world is a certain amount of years old. Because they overlook that essential question: why couldn't it not have been created yesterday, old? And you with old ideas. And you may have heard this idea from a creationist or some, well-meaning person who didn't fully couldn't really explain or whatnot, but hey, it's coming from Bertrand Russell. The guy was an atheist, you know. Well, at least he acted like one. I don't know if he really was one, but so people might just say, well, let's stop worrying about that. I don't think we can answer that thing. Why don't we just operate with those things that give us practical consequences? So if we start pretending that that car really is there and it's really coming toward us and we better move out of the way, and when we move out of the way, because we think if we move out of the way, we will not get hit, there's the if and the end, we move out of the way, we don't get hit, it always seems to be confirmed, then let's just operate on this realm, on this level. And let's not worry about whether it's there or not, because those questions don't seem to have any import with the physical interactions we're having in this world. And if you go that route, you're basically saying, I'm surrounded with propositions, the truth of which I don't really know if you're going to ask me if it actually corresponds to a real reality. But I can actually assume they're true and operate within them because there's no contradiction within this realm. Okay? So that is the cohesion theory of truth. In other words, one thing everyone who is a cohesivist will affirm is that you don't need to worry about whether it's there or not. Because if it's not there, okay, but you don't move out of the car, you're going to feel the pain nonetheless. So let's start avoiding the sensory data, if you want to call it that, by moving out of the sensory patch of color that we call the car. It's a cohesive theory of...
If the whole thing... Okay, so it's like there's the truth that is reality, but then there's falseness, but then inside of the falseness we can find truth. Our truth inside this middle, is the middle truth really true?
I lost you.
Sorry, like...
Yeah.
Can you draw a Venn diagram for us, please?
It's not a Venn diagram. Everything's inside each other. Okay. But if you have the outer circle, which is truth, that is reality, that it's just truth, that reality that God created. But then inside of that you have like an evil demon, that's falseness.
Well, that you see, you're misconstructing Descartes' argument. Descartes said there was if you're going to have the evil demon, you don't have any God beyond it.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. No, the evil demon for Descartes' thought experiment was the ultimate basic thing.
Oh, so that was the only thing. But the
Yeah.
evil demon was true. The evil demon itself was
What are you talking about?
like it existed. It was real, right?
Oh, okay. Oh, you're saying, okay, if we take Descartes'
If there's
thought experiment
true
is
existence.
Yeah.
There's true existence on the outside.
Yeah.
Then the evil demon has created the bubble.
yeah,
But
okay.
then inside the bubble you have your realm, which operates on logical principles, and that it's true.
Yeah, no, but it's true only within that realm. In other words, let's just say you're in a building. Well, actually, keep on going.
Well, isn't your little truth bubble
Sufficient to
false?
help you. Well, it depends on what you mean by false.
Is it false in the long run? False in the long run.
Okay,
You have the evil demon.
okay, but see, the trouble is, false means two things depending on the theory you ascribe to. If you ascribe to the cohesive theory of truth, false means, is it somehow not valid? If you ascribe to the correspondence theory of truth, false means, is it somehow not sound? And I'm drawing a really clear distinction here. That's actually a technical. These are not my terms. You got sound, you got validity. A valid argument is just along logical principles. An argument that is both valid and true, it corresponds to reality, is what we call sound. And the cohesive guy would say there's never any soundness. Why do we even bother? Soundness is a pipe dream.
Yeah, that's what I was kind of going for.
Yeah, but within this stuff, it would be like a building, okay? Let's lock ourselves into a windowless building. And then we say, look, inside this building, to open the door, you pull it this way, and it'll move. And in this building, you actually have a certain property that makes you stand this way on these things we call floors. And you're always drawn to the floor. You're always drawn to the floor. So jump up on the wall, jump up in the air, poof, you're drawn back to the floor. Okay, but that's just within this building. I don't have a clue what's outside the building. This is what the cohesive person was going to say. But inside the building, I know I'm drawn to the floor, so I'm going to call that a fact. And I'm going to say, you better run with these facts, because I have yet to run into the exception of the facts. Now, has there been in history an exception of the fact of gravity?
Would
No,
that
it's just
then be considered truth? That is truth, or is that
For the
something-
cohesive guy, he's going to say, yeah, it's true. facts
then
are true.
Is then in that world truth is relative because
Yes.
what is true is
Because they don't know that it's absolutely true across everything that exists. They're just saying all we know for sure that exists, and they say for sure, but is this building, the inside of the building. People have kind of gone out, but they've never come back. So we don't know what's out there. We know what's in here. Let's call this facts, because the definition of facts
But
resists.
then it's not really truth. It's what they ascribe to the word truth.
Right, but
It's
they're going to
not
ask. They're going to
necessarily-
say to you, you can't ever really know truth. So why do we play around with the false distinction? Let's just. I mean, it's a conceptual distinction, but because you're never going to run into it, we don't have to really worry about that, because, how will we ever know that it's not really
It's
true?
more applying the title of truth.
Yes,
For
they're weakening the notion.
purpose of,
Yeah. It's
using it as-
if you look at the history of philosophy, it's an attempt to save science, and because you don't. Okay, essentially, you're going to misunderstand. You're going to misunderstand philosophy, I think, if you. And I'm not saying you are. In fact, you're asking very good questions. All of you are. But you are going to, if you don't go with the notion, okay, just entertain it for the beginning, that it's not about what you access. It's about, well, how should I say this? There is predisposition at work, okay? And people are made to, I believe this personally, and I would recommend it as a way to approach philosophy. Okay, come on, we get to the point, right? All right. People are predisposed to view things one way or the other. Okay, they are actually made hardwired this way. But there are two types. One that's going to go to the natural realm, and one is going to go to the supernatural realm. Okay, and that you're going to find that the adherence to theories and whatnot doesn't ultimately depend on the logic behind those theories, but it depends on where the adherent to the theory was predisposed to go to in the first place. Because this problem of cohesion has a lot of problems too. But they're willing to overlook that problem, right, in order to maintain a belief, a fundamental belief they were predisposed to maintain in the first place. All right. And I know I expressed that very awkwardly. I think maybe if I could come up with a practical example here. It's actually in Aslan's book, right, in the last book of the Last Battle, I believe, when he has C.S. Lewis has the everyone that exists as a living being appear before the great lion, and they go one way or the other. Okay, so yeah.
You're saying that philosophy is just us trying to line up what we know with our presuppositions?
Yeah. I don't want to just say yeah you got, because I would like to think more about your statement here, but I think you're on the right track for that. Okay. Yes.
Would people that believe that they have a implanted hope of an afterlife,
Uh-huh.
like an implanted belief that there is something beyond death, do you think that's like the supernatural way, or
I sort of made it. Maybe those two categories. There's a dichotomy happening here, or a twofold categorization of people. And I don't know if I should have used supernatural, because people may, in fact, ascribe to the supernatural, but not to say the notion of God. Okay, so perhaps I should say it. In the tradition of much of philosophy, the divide is between God or non-God. Mm-hmm. And that may actually represent the stuff you're reading as primary sources as better, which is, you see God shows up in Descartes and Locke and Hume. He's going to be all over the place. So that may be a better representation of, and so some people may actually be opposed to the notion of God, but open to the notion of, well, there's stuff beyond what we can see. But there is going to be, but you realize that one of the types of responding away from the notion of God is to say there is nothing else beyond the material. Okay, so physicalism is in that sense a rejection of the God idea. But I don't want you to just equate that with the rejection, because the rejection is more full. It has more possibilities. Okay. Now, let's get back to a question I want to ask you here. What did you think about, did you read Wittgenstein's Beetle in the Box? Yeah, we got it. I got you. Okay, what did you think about that analogy?
10 boxes or something, and if there's...
No, if the box is representing someone's mind, you can't look into
You can never look
someone's
into
mind.
10 other minds. Okay.
Dang it.
Oh, damn, Wittgenstein.
Couldn't you say it's just as improbable that everyone has something different than that everybody has the same thing? Couldn't you say it's just as improbable?
Well, what I want to do here is kind of run with what you're saying here. Let's actually question the analogy. What happens here, okay, is that there's some strange event, and it doesn't always have to be on the virtues of the person. Somebody's voice, sometimes it is by the virtue of the person, like Newton or Galileo, but they also have to depend on the confluence of the time. The time has to be right. And you get the time right of the culture, the person's voice public. Now, sometimes it comes about in a very strange way. And what I don't want us to do is sort of, and it's very hard not to do this with Plato and Aristotle and people like, but mythologize or elevate these people beyond like actually the possibility that they were stark raving mad and just dumb. Okay, because let me ask you this. Okay, Wittgenstein did present this to you through Blackburn at least. Blackburn is telling you, hey, you know, it's incredibly weak, this whole idea, because you know, you have one box, you can see what's inside the box. It's a beetle. But look at all these other boxes. Does that tell you that there's a beetle inside? How many boxes have you seen in your life, Jackson? 10,000?
Yeah.
Of all sizes and shapes, right? I mean, just boxes all over the place, different colors. Okay, all right. So, and you know that, and you know by past experience, as much as we can do this, okay, that when you open this box up, you get a refrigerator. When you open that box up, you get a new shirt from Land's End or something.
They're all
Or
independent.
yeah, when you open up this box that has this colorful paper, you get that gift you wanted. You know, and
And this box is here for the covenant.
so yeah, that's right. So you know why? Okay, so in this box, what I'm asking you is, in that scenario, yeah, it's pretty weird because the boxes don't look the same, right? But what if you always ran into 10,000 boxes? If you know that you've run into like 50,000 boxes in the course of your life, and they all looked exactly like your box in terms of 2 eyes, a nose, lips, 2 arms, 2 legs. So think of the box. The boxes you run into are always the same dimension, more or less, and they always have like a certain color stripe on them, and they always have holes punched in one side, and then a middle hole punched, and they always seem to have stuff on the top that looks like little strands coming out, and on the 2 sides, when you look at the front of the box, they have like 2 holes there, the ears, and you know, and it's always been that way. These boxes are the same on the outside, and then when you like shove a box, you get the ow or whatever, and you get it for every box you shove, and so. In other words, what I'm saying is Wittgenstein, I think, maybe he wasn't fully represented in Blackburn, but actually, we're running into a whole lot of types of boxes that look exactly the same. So would it be far-fetched if you went into a room that had 10,000 what's the latest? iPhone boxes that said iPhone on it and looked the same dimension and had the same covering on it, and you had one yourself and you opened it up and there was a beetle inside of it? Wouldn't it be logical to assume that there are beetles in the other boxes too that look exactly the same?
Operate on probability and looking more than
But see, that's exactly what Wittgenstein is doing too. He's operating on probability. But let's say you can never operate on one box. But because, in other words, now in that room, put like millions of other boxes that look completely different. Tall, purple, pink, just no similarity at all. What I'm saying is it completely illogical to say, hey, if the box looks just like this box, and if in this box there's an iPhone, then might I not, based on reasoning principles, assume that other boxes that look just like this box, same dimensions, same stuff, would also have what this box has in it? Is that completely a wrong move in terms of philosophy?
I think
I mean, in terms of logic.
in our world, when you're paying attention to physical and manufacturing, and you're paying attention to that, then it might be logical. But I think like when you're really getting down to it, then it isn't.
Yeah.
There's no
Yeah.
reason. They're all independent of each other.
In other words,
Covering.
the evil demon might be particularly
Yeah.
pernicious. Yeah, yeah. But
I think it's just as equally improbable. Like it goes both ways. You could say it's improbable that they're all the same, but it's equally improbable
Right.
that they're not different. Like
well, I
there's
wouldn't
no
say
way
it's
to know.
equally. There's no way to know for sure. But I would always, okay, if you put me into a warehouse, and I think we would all do this, and the warehouse had 1 million boxes in it, But in the warehouse, 50,000 of those boxes looked exactly the same. But essentially exactly the same. Same dimensions, same. And they did the same things. Like if you dropped it, it bounced 3 times. Just like us, when we pour hot water in our laps, we tend to jump up and scream and all that. Okay, all right. So you got among the whole class of boxes, you got a subclass of boxes that look exactly the same as far as you can see, and they act exactly the same in terms of cause and effect. When you, okay, I think that you do have a warrant to say when you open it and you find one thing in one, you don't know for sure, right? But you have more of a warrant to say there are iPhones in the other boxes. Okay, but you don't know for sure because you know what? Maybe you were the last person to get your iPhone, and the other people's already got their iPhones and just left the boxes. So, yeah, I gotta quit here. But
I'm just thinking, if we're taking that a step back, if you say that the boxes are people, then you're saying that you can only understand the rest of the world as you understand yourself. So, like, if I